Hello. I had made a pretty popular upload on how to fix these sun visors. Sometime I'll get into the mirrors as soon as I find a replacement mirror. Vanity mirror, that is. Anyhow, I had made a video on how to kind of rejuvenate these swivels. And someone had mentioned in a video just a few days ago, and it was coincidentally around the time I wanted to try something. But they suggested something along the line of clips, and I was meaning to do an update because I'm finally putting a headliner in my car, so it's time for these. So I thought, well, you know what? I'll cut some grooves in the shaft and I'll insert some Circlips. So that's what I did. Because I really wanted to tap or die the metal rod so I can either have a bolt or a nut on the top so I could set the tension, but we'll have to make compromises, so this is kind of the way it will have to be. This one, I had more material. The shaft was longer in this section, so I was able to get by with a washer underneath the circlip, which is definitely more ideal than to not have a washer. But if I find a thin enough one, I'll try to squeeze one in there, just to keep the spring from trying to turn the circlip, because if you can keep the circlip stationary, it shouldn't leave its groove. But yeah, that's all we did. Was I took out a Dremel with a cutting wheel, and I carefully cut a groove all the way around the rod. It was just a little bit deep, only a little deep, and then as I did it, I checked my progress, so I made sure that I wasn't doing it too deep. And yeah, my two circlips fit on it perfectly. I believe they were 1/4 and 3/16. Yep, so I used a 3/16 little guy and 1/4 inch. So those are only two I used. You can get them at, I think, Menards, but for sure Harbor Freight, they have them. I tried using the ones that have more contact surface. These are the E-clips, but they do make some normal C-clips, those guys. And I tried those out, and they actually weren't as conducive to the diameter of the shaft. These E-clips, the measurements of the interior diameter are much more loose, so it's more forgiving to whatever size you're trying to wrap them around. With those C-clips, I just couldn't make it happen, but these E-clips worked out perfect. But because you're dealing with something so small, it's terribly important that you get the orientation correct. I do have some oversized ones so you can better see the issue, but you can see how the light kind of rounds off on the edges of this guy. If you look on the other side, it doesn't do that. It's all just flat. See how that's flat? Now I'll grab another one so you can see them side by side. But this guy is flat and this one's rounded. That's real critical in how you align these, because the flat side is going to have a lot more grip when it's pushed against something. This round one, if you're going to push it up against something round, you'll have a likelihood of trying to slip out of its slot. So when you insert these clips, you have to make sure that for the bottom one, the flat side is facing out, and again for the top one, the flat side is facing out. You do that, it'll help prevent these from popping out. But yeah, that was all there was to it. Once I did this, the tricky part was fitting the top circlip in while fitting like the washer or the spring, because when you fit in the circlip, there is spring pressure on it, and that's just how it has to be. That's how it physically is there's always going to be preload whenever you're trying to do this operation. So that kind of sucked, but with some pliers and some careful operation of the hands, it worked out all right in the end. So, but yeah, you can see these guys are. This one's a little stiffer, and it's just because this one needs a washer, and this washer might be a little too thick. So I'll have to go out. I'll find some thin washers, like ones for carburetor slide needles. Otherwise, I could use more Circlips. Circlips are typically kind of thin, like this, so I might be able to get by with that. I gotta check on that. But if I put a thinner one here and a thinner one here, they'll both be just about perfect, because this one's only a little too snug for my liking, and then this one's just a tad on the loose side for my liking. If you can kind of see that, just based on how much it moves when I try to twist it. But yeah, that's all there is to it. I was very happy with this, and I'm excited to put this in the car. And hopefully these guys don't fall out of their grooves, but that's why it's critical to get as straight as the slot as you can. And do keep in mind when you're doing the top one, your top line of the slot is what's going to be critical. You know, that top line, not the bottom one. The top line that the Circlip will be resting against, that is crucial. If you get that kind of wavy or rounded over, this guy will just fly right off at some point. So we're trying to keep that from ever happening. That's the whole point of what we're doing. But now I think these guys are just about ready, and I'm going to do some plastic welding on some trim pieces, and then we'll get the headliner and these up inside the car.